There was Gothic Remake Demo released on Steam a week ago, and while it got 78% positive reviews on Steam, it didn't come out without issues. Most reviews, be it positive or negative, mention the same problems: AI, movement, animations, and combat. It's worth noticing that only 30% players finished demo, so many dropped out, maybe because of those issues. And we don't want players to drop out, so I will try to analyze all those aspects in this video. So there is a book by Steve Swink called Game Feel, and in chapter 17, Principles of Game Feel, he lists 2 rules that Gothic Remake breaks tremendously: predictable results and instantaneous response. So let's elaborate on the first rule. The rule goes like this: when players take action, they get the response they expect. So when I do A, I know that B happens afterwards, I'm sure of it, and I'm pissed if it doesn't. So when I attack an enemy and he is in my range, he gets hit, is staggered, is knockbacked, or not, but choose one. So it is predictable. And as you can already guess, in Gothic Remake it isn't really that obvious what happens after attack. Let's go with the first example. So here I attack Goblin and my first hit lands, but the second one goes right over his head, even though I thought I'm in range, because clearly I am. The collision is so precise that it allows such things to happen, but it isn't any good for player experience. Either the collision box should be bigger or swing should be somehow directed into center of the goblin, so such things won't happen. The only thing the player is able to easily take into account is range between hero and enemy. I can't easily deduce that player is on slope here, or goblin is on slope. Even taking that slope into account, there is another similar problem. Let me show you the second example. Here, my blade goes right beneath the scavenger, even though I was in range. Again. And what? I'm dead. Frustrated. Not my fault. I rage quit. Not the funny souls, fair rage quit. Not my fault, rage quit. So we already know that being in range doesn't guarantee you hitting an enemy that you want to attack. Something should be done so it is easy to predict whether attack player performs, lands or not. And in my opinion, attack in range should hit enemy always, unless enemy dodges. So that's the first thing. Now about staggering. It is also completely unpredictable. Most often I stagger enemy that doesn't do anything. And then sometimes I stagger enemy that attacks me and sometimes I don't. So there are moments like this when I attack scavenger. I don't stagger it and I'm dead. Here, another example of the goblin. Things like that doesn't let player come with any tactic during combat, as it is random. And here, more examples from Runaway.
One thing Piranha Bytes could never handle is good combat, man. It's just they Euro trash!
And now about knockback. It also seems very random to me, but the second attacking combo seems to always knock back enemies. But in my opinion, it is just a free dodge for enemies, so it is harder to hit him with the third attacking combo. To summarize, make combat predictable so every action is tied to the reaction that player can predict. The second rule goes like this. The player feels the response to the input is immediate. So, why players perceive attacks as unresponsive and not immediate? The whole animation is slow, and what's most important, the wind-up time is incredibly slow. I tried to recreate the animation timing on 2D Sword in Unity. The wind-up time takes half a second. Let's compare it to OG. It's immediate, even unlearned. The sluggishness comes in the second part of attack, when the window you can combo attack is smaller on lower levels, and it takes more time to attack to change direction to the other side. But initial attack is always fast, so we can predict easily when it hits enemy. I know it's different kind of the game, but now take a look at Death with huge hammer. Even here, wind-up time isn't that big as for one-handed weapon in Gothic Remake, but it still feels heavy. I compared two-handed weapons to one-handed in Gothic, so it is even clearer how long wind-up time takes there. For me, whole animations should be faster for any combat level, but wind-up time should be reduced most significantly, only to as much as needed, so it looks realistically. Otherwise, situations like this happen, when I'm starting attack and scavenger kills me. I had no chance to do anything. It doesn't telegraph attack. If my wind-up was faster, I would at least staggered it and didn't get hit. Poor enemy telegraphing and long player wind-up animations don't play well, and that makes fast attack extremely useful as it immediately puts your weapon collider in front of you in comparison to other useless attacks. Like, for example, club overhead attack. It takes so long I might as well open my arms and say hit me to the enemy. So what would I do to improve combat responsiveness? First of all, reduce wind up time of attacks and make all animations faster. Then I'd make it possible to chain attacks even on unlearned. Now it works pretty weirdly. I can chain them, but not by clicking attack button at the end of attack. I don't have to wait until it goes back to idle either. Clicking somewhere in between works. It's very non-intuitive. I'd make them chain only when player clicks proper button at the end of swing, the way it works in OG. But after I learned one-handed weapon combat, apparently I can now spam left mouse buttons as much as I want. Why is it so? What are those directional attacks even for? Now about parrying. It's so freaking OP. I can win any fight by basically staying there and pressing Ctrl in the right time. First thing, parry window should be shortened, but it still doesn't solve the problem, just makes it harder to learn the thing. I think parry shouldn't stun enemy for that much. Maybe it should reduce all the damage if done correctly, and then block would only reduce percentage of it. Also, there is visible delay between parry and when I'm able to press the mouse button to attack. Why am I stunned too? To make it feel good, you should be able to attack right after parry. Now it feels sluggish. And also, I wouldn't make parrying monsters possible. Why would I be able to parry Crawler, for example? So now about enemy AI. There isn't much to say. In many cases it just doesn't work. Examples are now played in the background. NPCs sometimes want to attack us, sometimes they don't, sometimes one decides to attack and the other doesn't even care. When it comes to monsters, well, they lose aggro pretty quickly. Scavengers run pretty slow, like they were in mud. And if you shoot them with bow when you are on inaccessible terrain, they just decide to surrender and don't react. I think they should at least run to the opposite direction from the player if making them run behind the cover is too much work. And AI is also very passive. Like, look at that goblin. The game just becomes turn-based right now. He's just staying there doing nothing. In OG, goblins were surrounding you and were pretty active. I don't require them to do the same here in Remake, but I think this is too much passiveness. Also, the warning sounds. Here they are incredibly silent. Most of the time I wasn't aware Scavenger or Mole-Rat was trying to warn me. They seem pretty shy when it comes to warning, and they warn you only one time, which is definitely not enough. It should be at least 2 to 3 times and louder to make it work. And NPCs seem to be blind. They react to my weapon being out only if I'm directly in front of them. And also the movement. Here is awesome comparison by Dariusz from Gothic Remake Discord. It shows how much time it takes for Nairas to start moving. And in most games, characters start moving immediately, don't have to lean forward before they start to move. Everything in Remake should be faster. Starting movement itself, sprinting. I had need to press my shift stronger to accelerate because it was so slow. Looting animations, make it faster, make it possible to disable it completely. Make loot window show immediately, make it possible to cancel that animation by looting quickly. Make token start immediately as in Gothic 2, maybe with quick black fade out, so NPC's animation isn't interrupted weirdly. Here another shot from Reno, when Nairas runs in place like in Looney Tunes. This shouldn't take place. And Kurgo is still sliding, that's not fair at all. And Nairas also sometimes slides, but it is very, very rare right now. Last 2 minor things. Camera seems to be shaken when walking on uneven ground. It could be smoothed out somehow. And also it's sometimes very difficult to interact with objects as the trigger zones are not as big as they could. And that would be it. I think improving animations, speeding up movement, wind up of attacks and attacks, making AI smarter would make player experience so much better already. I hope Alchemia will deliver and improve those aspects because I want Remake to be a big success and not just another forgotten Eurojunk. Thank you.